It's getting closer. Joe Calzaghe has spent a lifetime building up to this, and there's not much longer to wait for the moment when one of Britain's best ever goes in for the biggest fight of his life against Bernard Hopkins in Las Vegas. It's live only on Setanta Sports this weekend. Truly a knockout weekend in every sense for us, and we hope you can join us. Steve Bunce is here as the countdown resumes. Steve will have his say shortly. Look out also for an extra dash of Hollywood this evening, but as the two main men came face to face, they were both word perfect. Mark Bishop watched them.
No high testosterone levels between Hopkins and Calzaghe when they came face to face with a clock now ticking down before showtime in Vegas. Then a clever PR stunt by Calzaghe's father Enzo.
I don't take presents from my enemies.
No, not an enemy. 5 minutes, I'm afraid. Just from Wales.
You're going to take it back after the fight.
Here, can we just sit there? You might need me like yours. Bye now.
Now I had a rocking chair from Tarver and I got a king. I got my whole game.
Calzaghe says age will be his opponent's downfall. Hopkins, though, may be 43, but he'll prove to be the toughest opponent Calzaghe has yet to face.
To be honest with you, there's nothing for me to hype. I'm up for this fight. I train all the time, so I can't tell you I'm in the best shape of this fight compared to the last fight. I'm always ready.
It's the first time to come and fight in America. It's the first time in a new weight, but it's a test I'm relishing. I'm tremendously confident. Bernard's lost a few times, but he's never been stopped. So that's something I honestly believe I'm going to do.
I was born an underdog. If you know the era of that year. What do you mean underdog? That's what I like. Don't you know that helps me? That's not a negative to me. That's a positive to me. I'd rather be that. Because that's my world. That's how I function. Everything I got in and out of the ring, I had to fight for it. Even for my own humanity.
After the traditional press conference, Calzaghe got the red carpet treatment when he went to the premiere of Al Pacino's new film. The superstar actor, though, wouldn't be drawn on who would win the fight.
Are you a Calzaghe fan?
Cool, of course I am. Who isn't? I mean, you see him fight, it's amazing. That is amazing. I'm also a Bernard Hopkins fan. I like him. I think he's great, too. So it's going to be a great match.
The tough-talking, brash Bernard the Executioner Hopkins is 7 years older than Calzaghe. Despite the American's undoubted pedigree, this does seem the time the Italian dragon will slay the enemy.
So far, so good for Calzaghe then, certainly. Let's find out the reaction to all of that in Las Vegas with our own John Rawling and first, Rob Walker.
So the build-up to the big fight here in Las Vegas continues, and today's head-to-head press conference between Bernard Hopkins and Joe Calzaghe promised many fireworks. However, it was a fairly calm affair in the end. One interested spectator is our commentator, John Rawling. John, it was pretty amicable in there, wasn't it?
It was all very respectful, and I think that both of them handled themselves pretty well. Joe looked terrific, you know. I mean, light heavyweight is clearly suiting him, and he looked strong, he looked happy with himself, full of himself, and I think everything's obviously going very well for him. But Hopkins as well looked terrific. It was interesting when they stood nose to nose. Hopkins tried to make a big deal of the fact that he was the taller man, didn't he? And Joe was having none of it, and just stared him out effectively, and Hopkins didn't try anything.
Were you surprised that Hopkins didn't go for anything? Because he is the master of the mind games and he loves unsettling opponents before the big night.
Well, he does. It's interesting, though, you know. I mean, he's a real street boy, is Bernard Hopkins. Joe Calzaghe comes from a completely different background, and it strikes me that Hopkins realises that the sort of strokes that he would play against many fighters over here in the States, he just can't get to Joe Calzaghe. You know, unquestionably in his last fight against Winky Wright, he unsettled Wright at the press conference. You know, if you remember, he pushed him in the stomach, and then Wright went back at him, tried to chin him, and people had to step between them, and he lost his cool. There was none of that, and Joe was just not going to be fazed by any of the rhetoric, the talk of the prison background, and the hard man image. Joe just doesn't care. He says, I am born hard. I didn't have to go to prison to be hard.
And one moment of amusement was Enzo Calzaghe. We can always rely on him to add an interjection or two. The walking stick to Bernard didn't really faze the American, did it? Although it was quite funny.
It was funny, but I mean, Hopkins has seen it before, hasn't he? Tarver tried that stroke when he fought Tarver 18 months ago or so. Tarver turned up with a wheelchair. So, you know, I mean, he's seen it before, hasn't he? But the walking stick thing was a nice line, but Enzo's always full of fun, isn't he?
Funny. Do either fighter come out of that press conference with a tiny mental edge, or at their stage of their careers, is it just, look, we've finished with talking, we want to get on with it?
I think if you were to say that one person had had a slight mental edge, I might just say Calzaghe, because so often in Hopkins fights you see the opponent definitely being intimidated, and Joe Calzaghe wasn't, and I think Hopkins now looks at him and says, well, this guy is not going to be done by being out-psyched. He's got to be done by being beaten in the ring, and he knows that he's got a real fight coming up. But wait for the weigh-in, you never know, could be something there.
Absolutely fascinating. As John says, it's all simmering up towards the big one, but plenty more time for drama.
I don't know about you, Steve, but I'm slightly mystified at this stage. Legend has it that half Bernard Hopkins' best work is done before the night of the fight. What's he up to at the moment?
Paul, it's Thursday night. When's the fight? The fight's Saturday night. That's 2 days. That's a lifetime in Bernard Hopkins' build-up life. Okay, he did his bit last December when he got in Joe's face and he made that comment about white boy, never losing to a white boy. It got worldwide recognition for this fight, and that was a month before this fight was made. That was stage one. He had no reason to do anything when they came head-to-head in London in February. He had no reason to do anything when they came head-to-head at Planet Hollywood. The whole world's watching. And you know what? What are we all talking about? We're not talking about the fight anymore. We're talking about when's Hopkins going to do something? When's Hopkins going to get inside Calzaghe's head? He's already there. The fact that everyone's going into Joe's hotel or Joe's house and saying, Joe, is he getting to you yet? It's driving Joe mad. You see what I'm saying? It's working. He's done it. He's done it without doing it.
Nonetheless, Calzaghe may sense the man beside him in that situation. I think he doesn't really have the conviction of some of his famous build-up performances.
Yeah, he could very well be thinking that. He could be thinking that, but at the same time, okay, it will be sitting in Joe's head. He'll be wondering, when is it going to come? Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll come in the tunnel just before they leave to go to the ring, Paul. Maybe it'll come after the weigh-in. Famous Mike Tyson, Frank Bruno, all week long in the rematch. Frank Bruno was in great shape until Tyson got him after the weigh-in in private.
You're saying,
fell apart.
You did say that he's done his best work long ago in this particular case so far, but he did test the water here, didn't he?
Yeah.
There were 1 or 2 little needles.
Absolutely, and if he'd have seen a little bit of fear, a little bit of reaction, I think he would have jumped.
So he is playing.
He's treading water. He is playing. He knows what he's doing. He's not in this for the payday because he's not getting the type of money he got when he fought Trinidad and when he fought De La Hoya. He's in this to win.
How about Joe Calzaghe, who we will hear at length shortly from? But, you know, we've seen truly calamitous performances from the likes of Nazim Hamed, unfortunately, the Barrera fight, even the Kevin Kelly fight, which he nearly lost. It was all going wrong long before the time of the first bell, when one of our best went over there. Well, this is a much better effort so far from Joe, isn't it?
It seems to be absolutely perfect. So much so that I'm slightly disturbed that he is that relaxed. I don't mind a fighter relaxing, and Joe has changed a little bit in the last couple of years. What you have to remember, Paul, that in all of Joe's fights, 44 fights, 21 world title defences, 22 world title fights, only on one occasion, excluding last December, only once has he ever come head-to-head, nose-to-nose, and got nasty with an opponent. And that was back in the summer of 2000 of Omar Shaker. That's the only time, and Joe was visibly shaken then. Trust me, he was shaken by Shaker.
It was memorable stuff, you're quite right at the time. When you see them matching up physically like that, Steve, what are your impressions?
Forget it. I tell you what, John Rawlin hit the nail on the head resoundingly. Joe looks far more relaxed physically than he looks before any of his other fights. He struggles to make 12 stone. Here at 12-7, he is in great shape. His face isn't drawn, Paul. Do you remember the Kessler fight? We looked at the VT when we were down at the Millennium Stadium, and he looked drawn. He looked ghost-like. He looked sick. He doesn't look ill or sick now.
Did you not get the impression, though, Steve, and you probably have seen them before matched at a previous press conference occasion, Hopkins looks quite solid compared to Calzaghe?
Absolutely. Hopkins, when he decided... Hopkins made...
Joe was even looking up to him.
Absolutely. Hopkins made the middleweight limit all of the time. 10 years, 20 defences. He made it easy. He made it on the nose. Bosh, bang, boogie. He made it simple. And so what he's done is he's gone up to 12-7, okay? That's a stone heavier, or just over a stone heavier, okay? And he's done it with a bit of bulk pull. He hasn't done it by eating pork chops. He hasn't done it by eating kebabs, drinking lager. He's done it by putting a bit of bulk on here, here, and around the tops of his thighs. He is incredibly strong.
Don't miss any of it with us so far this week. He's been taking it all in his stride, hasn't he? But he's loving being the centre of attention. Let's hope he's saving the best for Saturday.